Gender development. For many decades, psychologists have studied and pondered how gender develops in children. The term sex describes the physical genitals, the penis or the vagina, a child is born with. Whereas gender is an imposed, or adopted, behavior or attitude on how to act based on a child's sex from society. Sexual identity is how a person sees themselves as a biological female or male, while gender identity being how a person sees themselves and prefers to live as a male or female regardless of their actual biology. Furthermore, a gender role is the social behavior attributed to and displayed by men and women. This sex typing starts early in age. By the young age of 2, the majority of children are already aware of their own gender, and by the time they are 3 or 4 they know which of the gender roles they are expected to play, and they are criticized and punished for their cross-gendered behavior by parents, peers and teachers. It is very difficult for a child not to grow up with some bias or stereotyping in their gender development. There are many different theoretical models of gender identity development. One of these models is the psychoanalytic theory, developed by Sigmund Freud, of how gender development happens in children. Simply put, psychoanalysts believe gender development happens when children pull away from their opposite-sex parent in order to avoid retaliation from their same-sex parent, as they are initially sexually attracted to that same-sex parent. Girls learn what it is to be a woman from their mother and boys learn from their father, although the psychoanalytic theory says that girls will never get over their penis envy. Due to the fact that girls are mothered by a person of the same sex, they end up being more attached to others, and define who they are in this matter, whereas boys define themselves in their distinct and separate nature. Another model is the social learning theory, whose followers include Albert Bandura. The social learning theory views gender identity as formed from parents and peers through imitation, and direct reinforcement from sex-typed activities and speech. Additionally, there is a cognitive development model, proposed by Lawrence Kohlberg. This theory believes that each child's understanding of what gender is varies at different ages, and it is parallel to the child's ability to reason about other aspects of life. This cognitive model believes that children grow to understand that gender is a constant thing and it does not change over time. This theory also states that gender schema theory makes assumptions that gender roles are associated with gender labels and that children are aware of this. One other model is a psychosexual view on development, which is a much more biological view, focusing on chromosomes and hormones, and other biological mechanisms, associated with females and males and their role in gender development. This theory is not a strict nature argument, it is a nature-nurture combination with a clear stance on gender starting before a child is even born. Furthermore, there are many different cultural differences dealing with gender identity, including parent-child interactions, the school environment, as well as culturally based stereotypes put forth by sources like strangers or the media. I believe that the family of a child is the greatest cultural influence of gender development. Parents and toys. It has been indicated that parents have differential expectations of their sons and daughters as early as 24 hours after birth. Additionally, it's been that parents tend to treat their opposite-sex children in different ways. It is believed that children get most of their information about gender roles, and the norms of society, from their parents and their family environment. The differences, or likenesses, of how parents act with, and treat their children, have been studied to a fairly large amount. When it comes to parents' part in the development of gender identity in their children, it has been found that parents affect how their children develop due to different types and displays of warmth, encouragement, interaction, affection, restrictiveness, punishments, pressure for achievement, and pushing for sex-typed activities and toys. It is often found in research that parents narrow down their child's choices in activities and interests by sex-typing them. This strict sex-typing of toys is most often done by fathers towards their sons, as well as in traditional homes. These parental toy choices send children a clear message on what is expected of them in terms of gender roles. Longill's and Downs' experiment showed how parents play with their child's gender-same toys longer than the cross-sex toys, and are much more critical of these cross-sex toys. It has also been found that most parents have a habit of choosing strictly masculine and neutral toys for their male children, but with female children, feminine toys are chosen along with both masculine and neutral toys. Toys that are considered to be more appropriate for female children were toys that were more nurturing, attractive, encouraged creativity, and manipulable, whereas toys that were aggressive, constructive, competitive, conducive to handling, reality-based as well as more encouraging to sociability were deemed most appropriate for boys. It is easy to see how these toys believed to be the most gender-suitable fall into the stereotyped feminine and masculine behavioral patterns that are expected of society. What is most fascinating is the influence on the cognitive development the toy choices have. It has been found by Serban and Connor as well as Tracy that play with the masculine toys leads children to higher visual spatial skills, while play with feminine toys leads children to have higher vocabulary ability. What's more, it seems that boys are shown to prefer toys that are weapons, vehicles or spatial temporal items whilst girls tend to want toys that are more domestic items, dolls, and musical items. Children are already so primed for the gender role society wants to place them in. A lot of children avoid playing with cross-sex toys. This is most obvious with boys. In Campani's study it was determined that parents' negative reactions to cross-sex toys was supported in the finding that boys are discouraged from playing with feminine toys, although girls are deterred to a lesser extent in playing with masculine toys. Moreover, it has also been found that girls actually prefer to play with masculine toys in addition to feminine ones. This could explain why it is not penalized as much with girls when they play with cross-sex toys than when boys engage in the same activities, although, younger infants and toddlers are not as subjected to this gender sexing of the toys to the degree of which older toddlers and school-age children are. According to social psychological research, gender is constructed through ongoing social situations such as the situational demands, or how someone reacts to how a child behaves in accordance or in defiance of expected gender behaviors or activities. Parents' behavior and attitudes towards gender role is attributed to different factors such as ethnicity, religion, and social class. These factors affect how they raise their children, what types of expectations they have for their children, boys versus girls, and how they allow cross-sexed activities and what gender roles they push towards their children, if any. It has been shown that parents' gender role attitudes are directly linked with their child's development of gendered interests, activities and schemas. Eccles's research provides evidence of how parents have distinct socialization goals for their girls and/or boys. Parents' views of what sons and daughters should be are actualized through explicit training and guiding towards academic and career choices, as well as by directing children into particular activities deemed appropriate. Different experiences with parents. Several researchers have proposed that parents spend more time with their same-sex child than their opposite-sexed child because parents believe they are better able to offer guidance and advice, as it is likely they have experienced it themselves, and according to Kruder et al. Parents also tend to know more about what is going on in the lives of their children on the same sex. Gender development in children also seems to be influenced in how parents organize, manage, and provide resources for their children. Some examples of this would be as simple as the way bedrooms are decorated for children, pink with princesses for girls, or blue with race cars for boys, or to how the chores are handed out. When it comes to household chores, boys are often given the maintenance-type chores such as painting or mowing the lawn. Girls on the other hand are given the domestic chores such as laundry, dishes, and cooking. When parents, especially fathers, are more traditional, opposite-sex children are less likely to be treated similarly. Campani revealed that when parents have opposite-sex children they often show differential treatment with respect to warmth, and parental knowledge of daily activities. What is more, it has been noted by Eccles and Harold that parents are more likely to put their sons in gifted programs, computer classes, and sports teams than they are for their girls. Parents also invest in more developmentally challenging activities for their sons than their daughters. Litton and Romney and Maccabi and Jacqueline have documented that the schemas about gendered roles and attributes that children develop based on experiences with their parents serve as the foundation for children's active and constructive role in their own gender development. It has also been acknowledged that children often have different experiences with their same and opposite-sexed parents. Investigators have found that mothers are often more involved with both sexes of children from infancy though to adolescence. It seems that the father's involvement tends to be more based on a play and leisure level, while mothers are more on caregiving, teaching and learning levels. Children often go to different parents for advice and help for different reasons. Children go to fathers with help on more instrumental issues and concerns, but they go to their mothers for advice with conflicts and disagreements. This may be due to the fact that mothers talk more and use more supportive, and negative, speech than fathers, as fathers use more directive and informative speech. Furthermore, fathers are often centered out as the most focused on gender socialization. Martin and Halverson speak from a psychoanalytic perspective, theorizing that children learn to construct their own schemas of gender roles from observing and comparing their parents' roles and activities, which they say is consistent with cognitive theories of gender development. It is also believed that the social comparisons children make about how women versus men behave in close relationships and about the kinds of family roles they themselves might seek as adults may be a powerful influence on children's gender development over the long term. McHale and Kruder found that girls that spent more time with their fathers did better in math and science courses than if they spent more time with their mother. Even though there is not a substantial amount of research on children raised in homosexual or lesbian households, the research that has emerged has suggested that children from these family units show normal gender development. One of the other theoretical models previously mentioned was psychosexual development, and I am going to give some background on the biased interaction theory branch of this model. One superior argument for a nature-based theory is the reality that intersexed people, formerly known as hermaphrodites, exist. An intersexed individual is one having both male and female sexual characteristics and organs. At birth, an unambiguous assignment of male or female cannot be made. Therefore, a gender and sex is chosen by the doctor and/or parents for the child to be brought up as. This sex assignment determination is based on the functionality, future pubertal development, and fertility, and this decision happens in an estimated 1 in 1,500 to 2,000 births. Often as these children grow up, they feel as if they are not meant to be the sex and/or gender that was chosen for them, or that something is not quite right. It is not until after their parents reveal the truth of their history that they understand their true feelings and confusion on their gender identity. Further research on these intersexed individuals has shown that these individuals have very strong feelings about the decisions their parents made for them, society, medical interventions, and their own gender and sexual identities. In a study by Reiner, it was found that out of 24 intersexed children raised as girls, 13 ending up deciding to be male, 7 decided to stay female, 2 decided not to choose, 1 was only 7 years old at the time but was currently choosing to live as a male, and 1 had committed suicide. This is a large percent of children who were driven to be a male even after being reared as a female by their parents and society, which must say something about the biological basis of gender identity in children, even before they are born. It makes a case to see which is more powerful, rearing or biology. There is no definitive answer for this question as everyone is different, however, there are patterns in responses. As a child learns what society has chosen what it is to be a boy or girl, they also learn what is inappropriate in acting like the opposite sex. It is at this time that children are constantly comparing themselves to other males or females. Whether they compare to their parents or peers, children and adolescents want to be what society wants them to be, they aspire to it, and if they do not or cannot fulfill this, they think there is something wrong with them. Research on transsexuals has shown that the part of the brain associated with gender identity is more like the sex of which the person wants to be, rather than the sex of which they are. Transgender is the state of one's gender identity, self-identification as male or female, not matching one's assigned gender, being male or female based on their biological sex. Although transgender does not imply any specific form of sexual orientation, transgender people may identify as heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual or asexual. Many of these individuals see themselves as the opposite sex they were brought up as, thus several decide to change their outer appearance in order to balance their inside feelings. Many researchers have discovered that with identical twins, it is 50% likely that if one twin transitions to the opposite sex, the other twin will follow. Some intersexed individuals seem to be content with their given gender and have developed a seemingly healthy gender identity and sexual identity, while others have not. For example, Diamond interviewed intersexed, drag queen, transvestite and transgender individuals and found that both are positive and negative experiences. One participant with Z chromosomes and testes was raised as a woman and although shocked upon hearing the diagnosis, was comfortable living as a woman. This was the only positive intersexual case reported in this article, 2 others were not as positive. One was a woman who was raised as a man. She had XXY chromosomes and a penis, nevertheless she did not have the same confidence in her identity as the previous participant. This woman described her experience of living with doubts as to who and what I was. I had always felt myself to be a female rather than the male I was being raised. After finding out her diagnosis, she figured she could and should and would more comfortably live as the woman she felt herself to be. The second case was a sex reassignment due to genital trauma. Although this man was raised as a girl, he had suspected that he was a boy from grade 2. At the age of 14 he decided he would live as a boy or he would kill himself. Before, during and after sex assignment surgery process. Furthermore, there have been some retrospective studies focusing on the before, during and after sex assignment surgery process. Boyle, Smith and Liao spoke with 6 participants about their feelings and experiences before the surgery and found that the raised women felt that this surgery would aid in their conformity to normality. The women spoke of their intersexuality very negatively. They saw themselves as outsiders, monsters, and freaks. There was a lot of discontent with their ability to be in a heterosexual sexual relationship. One woman said to find yourself in that intimate situation with a male partner and for them to make some comment about the fact that you didn't have, a vagina. It would open this whole can of worms and you'd have to kind of explain things. I just couldn't handle it. All of these women disclosed that their doctor had pushed for the surgery. During the surgery many women did not feel comforted, or comfortable, with the process they were about to undergo. One woman spoke of a doctor who didn't even examine her prior to the surgery, he merely said that he would see her on the operating table. Another woman recalled her doctor stating that the surgery would be a bit painful. It's only the discomfort while we're stretching you. She then continues to describe the excruciating pain she actually experienced. The women all agreed that the doctors did not provide enough information for them to make informed decisions. In fact, they felt that the doctors made their decisions for them or they did not provide them with alternative options. The women felt that the constant after-surgery procedures were a constant reminder of their differences from normal women. After surgery the women had to dilate daily in order to keep their constructed vagina open. It was an experience that some women find to be very unpleasant, with one woman stating how it was a nightmare to dilate. Furthermore, surgery did not improve these women's sexual relationships. The surgery may have allowed Part A to fit and Part B, described as a test by one woman, but some women took years before they tried out their new vagina, and others only did it 4 or 5 times. Some of the women fear the questions that would be asked if their partner saw their genital scarring. Additionally, one woman explicitly described her experience with sex. She felt that it was just dead weight inside, and she could not figure out how to gain enjoyment from sex. A recurring theme brought up with intersexed individuals was the desire for more information to be provided for them, about them, and psychological help to get them through. All in all, as a child learns what society has chosen what it is to be a boy or girl, they also learn what is inappropriate in acting like the opposite sex. This is the time when children must decide whether masculinity or femininity suits how they feel on the inside. The only problem is that when girls act like boys, in the sense of tomboys, society tolerates it much more than when a little boy acts feminized. In society this is typically not tolerated at all, allowing insults to the child's character and sometimes physical well-being is put at risk by those who dislike the lack of obeying society's gender norms. Gender development is not a one-dimensional theory. The different models and ways of studying how children acquire this knowledge of gender identity all help us to understand in their own distinct ways. None of the models are more right or wrong than the others, all are right in their particular forms and categorizes of study. The only problem we have is they only explain so much separately. We need to figure a way to put the different models together in a connecting fashion. This way we can have a complete sphere of information instead of separate boxes. No single theory can claim to hold all the answers to gender development, but as a whole they are likely to have details of most if not all aspects of how a child develops their gendered identity. Although, and in conclusion, all theories agree on the role of the parents and the family unit in the gender development of children and their importance. References